Well, good afternoon. We're back here, of course, in Charlotte County again. We've been fortunate to have just such a great group of folks that have been participating in this response and recovery efforts from day one. And a lot of the folks here in Charlotte County have done a great job, so I want to thank them for everything they've done. We were able to be here the other day. The First Lady of Florida did this FloridaDisasterFund.org to raise private money to help people, and they've done over $45 million that they've raised for this already. They're going to do more. And so we were able to go work with the sheriff here in Charlotte, as well as police and fire groups. And so we did $2 million contribution for the Sheriff's Association, Police Benevolent, Fraternal Order of Police, and the Professional Firefighters Association, and they're raising money too. So they're going to be able to help a lot of their folks because, you know, you think about all these people out here working, you have cops, you have firefighters, and they're helping other people, but they may have had damage or lost their homes too, and yet they're still out here helping the other folks that had damage. So we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to help those folks who've been doing much. So I'm really excited about the progress on that. There will be more that we'll be able to announce in terms of helping those folks. And then, of course, we're here to announce further efforts that we're going to be doing. We are joined today by the FEMA Administrator, Deanne Criswell. We're joined by Kevin Guthrie, Florida's Director of the Division of Emergency Management, Captain Daniel Andrews, Co-founder and Executive Director for Captains for Clean Water, and then Rodney Barreto, who's our Chairman for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And I want to thank them for being here. I want to thank the captains for clean water as well. Just even beyond that, you've had captains who've come up. I remember when the storm knocked out the bridge at Pine Island, and they had these boats going back and forth helping people. Now, we ended up fixing that in record time, but you know, there was... But in those intervening days, you had folks that were up, they were doing all kinds of stuff and really activating very quickly to be able to help folks. And that was true Pine Island, Sanibel, all these other places. And there's been a lot of really good stuff that's been done. Of course, oh, and by the way, because we were able to get that bridge done on Pine Island in record time, you've had all these crews have been able to go work on there. You got close to 80% of the power fully restored now on Pine Island with all the damage that they had. And so, but we appreciate the role that our captains played and continue to play in the response and the recovery. I think most of you know that our fishing in Florida, both recreational and commercial, is really second to none. I mean, we are the #1 destination for people that want to come and fish, and we're proud of that. And I know we've got a lot of folks who make a living by taking people out to fish, and we want to continue doing that. If you look at the economic impact of the fishing industry in Florida, it's close to $10 billion. So that's a really, really significant thing. You talk to people like Bass Pro Shops, they'll say Florida is our #1 market by far, best place to be for that. So we're proud of that, but we also understood that this industry has now been affected by what we're seeing. Some of it is just the vessels. I mean, these vessels actually look like they did okay. You go to Fort Myers Beach, it may be a little bit different in terms of what they saw. But bottom line, I think this storm is going to end up having probably more vessels damage than any storm we've had in Florida. And so that obviously has an impact. There's a part by Fort Myers Beach where all these shrimp boats are like in a pile, basically. And so that has big impacts on the economy. It has big impacts on people's jobs, and it has big impacts really on the way of life down here in Southwest Florida. And so if you think about the fishermen, what's happened, you're losing income because you don't have the charter trips that you otherwise would have had. And there'd be a lot of people that would be down over the last few weeks that were not down as a result. You had gear that was lost. Of course, I mentioned the vessels. And then when the power goes out, folks that have product that product needs to be fresh, and so there's something you got to do with it. So not everyone was able to use all their products. So this is a big challenge for the marine community. It's a big challenge for our fishermen, but it's one that we want to make sure that we in the state of Florida are standing with them. As many of you have know, we very quickly in Florida activated the Emergency Small Business Bridge Loan Program, and that provides interest-free loans to businesses impacted by the storm and helps them basically bridge until they have the revenue flowing again. And it's always good to have interest-free, and we're very generous on how the state does that, but it's especially great to have interest-free when we have such persistently high inflation. This is the worst we've seen in 4 decades. And they kept saying months ago that it was going to turn the corner, and it just hasn't turned the corner. I think you continue to see a lot of stuff. So you have challenges that the businesses face because of the inflation. So this interest-free, I think, makes a big difference for them, because interest rates have gone up dramatically just in the last 6 to 8 months. Unfortunately, I don't think it's done. I think you're going to see it go up even more. So these are real challenges. And if you think about whatever gear that they had that's been destroyed, it's much more expensive to replace that today than it was just 2 or 3 years ago. And the same thing with all the other things, these improvements, the roofs, everything you see that are being repaired costs more than they would have cost in 2019 or 2020. And so that's just the economic reality we live in. But what we've been able to do by prioritizing the most affected communities, particularly Charlotte, Lee, southern Sarasota, DeSoto, Hardy, and parts of Collier, we've been able to really get money flowing out the door. So we've had already 1,000 completed applications. We've already approved 225 businesses for support. This is over $10 million in awards that are made. And this is really important, particularly at this time. Look, we've worked really hard to cut through the red tape, and I think we've done that better than any of the responses that people can remember. And we're going to continue doing that. What that means is there's been a lot of effort going to have a rapid recovery. We're going to continue to do that. But there's definitely going to be this intervening period. And so these awards are really important to be able to get that. Now, I know there's people going through the insurance process. Sometimes that's easy. Sometimes that is a pain in the rear end. I think we all know that. Well, if you're having problems there, you can still use these no interest loans to get you to where you need to be for down the road. There's SBA loans that are now involved. And again, this state supplements that, and so we're happy to step up and be able to do it. I'm also happy that Florida has been awarded $30 million for the Dislocated Worker Grant Program, and what that will do, so it basically steers resources to help people who've been displaced from their jobs have temporary employment. And I know there's a lot of people, particularly in this part of the state, people don't want to just be sitting around. They want to get back into action as soon as they can. So this will help with that, and it's something that I think will make a big difference. You've also seen just a lot of ingenuity and some of how people have changed some of their operations. I know some of the boat captains are doing new stuff as a result of this, and so all of that I think is really, really important. Now, we met with some folks. We had a big roundtable in Charlotte County very recently, in Lee County and Cape Coral earlier this past week, listening to some of the concerns. We will be taking more action at the state level on some of these other issues. I know there's issues with property tax and suspending, that, especially, if you have a tax bill and your home is destroyed, you shouldn't be on the hook for that. So we're working on ways to be able to give people breathing room. And then when the legislature comes back, we're going to work with the legislature to provide the permanent relief for people who've been affected by the storm. And we do have an all-hands-on-deck approach by our agencies. We also have an all-hands-on-deck approach with people being able to rebuild. You know, some of the things you may be hearing, like in Florida, if you're going to do like a roof repair, if you don't do it with somebody that's licensed, you may not get reimbursed by your insurance. You also have situations where scam artists come in after every one of these storms and can potentially victimize particularly our elderly residents. And so people have said, well, if someone wants to come from out of state, can they do that? Why? Some are saying you can't. You can, but you got to be licensed, and you basically got to submit the application for the state, which they're processing very quickly. But this allows us to be able to help with consumer protection so that if you pay someone $1,000 and they never show up and finish the work, that you know who it is and that person can be held accountable. Because what you see in some of these storms, these people come down here, they basically raid, they get money, they don't finish the work, and then they hightail it out of here. And so that's all it is. All hands should be on deck. Anyone that's licensed in this, if you're in other states, you can work with current contractors in Florida directly, or you can apply to be able to be waived in. And our agencies are processing those when they come in very quickly. But people that are just coming out offering you deals that are too good to be true, just understand, have your antenna up right now, because this is the time where a lot of these people feast on some of the things. And we've had major problems with this in the aftermath of storms going all the way back to Hurricane Andrew. So I think that the approach that Florida's taken is learn from those experiences is let's have all hands on deck, but let's make sure the consumers are protected, and let's make sure that their insurance is going to be honoring the work that's being done. And let's make sure we're not allowing people to come in, exploit the situation, and then hightail it out of Dodge with no accountability. So that's what they're trying to do, and I think that that's something that's very important. We're also pleased to announce today that we are officially requesting from the Secretary of Commerce and NOAA that this area be declared a federal fisheries disaster due to the severe impacts from Hurricane Ian. And this will be commercial fishermen, it'll be wholesale dealers, charter boat captains, offshore, nearshore, inshore fisheries, and there was damage on all of those. Now, we don't know the exact impacts to the industry, and, hopefully that the impacts aren't as severe as worst case, but we don't really know for sure. But this clearly a storm of this magnitude. This is appropriate for this declaration. So once this is approved, then that provides these groups and people in the industry to work with NOAA to be able to get more support. So we're happy to help facilitate that request. We know it's meaningful for a lot of the folks who've been working really hard down here. And, I will say, we have got a lot of folks that have put in an awful lot of time and effort from those original search and rescue missions, which were done incredibly well throughout the region and saved a lot of people, but also the crews out there repairing infrastructure, bridges. The Sanibel Causeway, if you remember looking at that the day after the storm, there's a lot of people thought you wouldn't be able to get on land to Sanibel for like another year. People were saying that the island was just going to die. We're like, no, we're not going to let that happen. We did send barges and looked at doing other things, but we're like, you know what? Getting this thing temporarily repaired is going to allow you to get the help on the island that you need. So we were able to do that at the beginning earlier this week, and you had hundreds and hundreds of trucks go across that causeway basically 2 weeks after actually less than 2 weeks after the storm. So that's important. And what's going to happen, so you have people working on that. In terms of the power, Pine Island is coming along very good, very important to do that. They are doing a lot of repairs on Sanibel. They are still working on one of the substations to repair that, which is going to be, of course, necessary. Captiva, they have some undergrounding there, but I think one of the lines was severed, so they're having to rebuild some of the underground infrastructure on Captiva. And so that will take a little bit more time than if you were just having to hook it up from the poles. But nevertheless, we feel optimistic that very soon, we're going to be able to get civilian traffic going into Sanibel over that repaired causeway. And that's going to be important for a lot of the homeowners, a lot of the people that work on the island, making sure the debris is getting off the island. There's a whole host of things that need to be done. You just would not be able to do a fraction of what is necessary if you did not have access to the island with vehicles. And so we're happy that Florida Department of Transportation's worked really hard on doing that and really doing it in a very, very quick fashion. So we look forward to being able to announce that opening next week. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to want to get back and be able to help. You're going to hear from some other folks here about other ongoing efforts, but I want to thank everybody that's been involved. The local folks in these communities have been working tirelessly. Our state agencies have never really worked this well together in the aftermath of a disaster. We're all singing from the same sheet of music, and we're working well with the locals. We're also working well with the FEMA administrator and her team on FEMA to be able to make sure that we maximize the amount of support that's available. So thanks everyone for working so hard. We've got a lot more to do, and this is not something that is taken care of in days, weeks, or even months. It goes beyond that. But I'll tell you, the fact that we had a very rapid response, got record numbers of people back on their feet quickly, that's going to make everything we do going forward that much more achievable. And so I think it's been a great effort, and we're going to continue working hard. So we're going to hear from the FEMA administrator, we'll hear from Kevin Guthrie, we'll hear from Captains for Clean Water, and then we'll hear from FWC. So Administrator Criswell, thanks for coming down to Florida again. We appreciate all the support. Yeah.
Thank you, Governor. You just heard some of the amazing work that the state has already done. And Governor, I commend you and your team on the rapid response and the ability to really start getting this recovery moving forward. Can't hear me. No? I can lean. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. But I think what's really important here, too, is this is truly an all-of-society approach. The amazing work that the state has already done, absolutely incredible. But we also have so many nonprofit and non-governmental agencies that are here on the ground that are helping with the immediate relief efforts. We still have federal agencies that are here on the ground. I just met earlier today with some of our disaster medical assistance teams that are in Charlotte County, supporting some of the hospitals that are still having difficulty receiving patients. Or I went out with the Army Corps of Engineers who are out there doing the Blue Roof program to help get some of those roofs stabilized as you're doing your recovery. This is definitely an all-of-society approach, and everybody is pitching in. And when you say all hands on deck, Governor, that's really what you're seeing. And I'm really proud to be part of the team and supporting the governor in his efforts. We're going to continue to work. I mean, even our faith-based community. I met with our faith-based leaders in Lee County yesterday, and they talked about the networks that they have to help us get the information out to families, out to individuals that are really, in that moment of trying to figure out what they're going to do next on their road to recovery. So what we have right now for FEMA is we have 14 disaster recovery centers that are open in conjunction with the state, with Director Guthrie. And at those centers, you can talk to somebody about what you need to do for assistance with FEMA. You can talk to SBA and see if you can, if you want to apply for a loan with them. Many of these disaster recovery centers are co-located with the state's insurance villages, and so you can get all of that done in one spot. If you want to find out more about where the disaster recovery centers are located, you can go to disasterassistance.gov, or I think the floridadisaster.org, and you can find where the closest one is to you. Go talk to somebody face to face, because I know sometimes on the phone or going through the website can be challenging. We also have teams. We call them disaster survivor assistance teams, and they are going out in the communities. They'll have FEMA shirts on. They'll have iPads with them, If you have not registered for assistance, they can help you register, or if you have and you just have a question about what's next, they can look up your case. And so if you see them in your neighborhood, please talk to them, ask them questions. They can pull your case up, and if you had documentation that was still needed, they can help you upload that documentation. And so we want to make sure we're getting out to people where they're at instead of forcing you to try to come to us. And so these two different avenues, our disaster recovery centers or our disaster survivor assistance teams, they're out there to help you. I was able to walk with one of our teams yesterday in Dunbar and as well as North Fort Myers and talk to some of the survivors, some of the families that were there, and just hear the heartbreak and the stories that they experienced. And my heart goes out to everybody that has been impacted by this. So this is going to be, one of those events that we talk about for decades because there's just been so much impact. But because of all of the people that have come together and all of the efforts already underway to really expedite the recovery, this is going to be a bright future for everybody that's been impacted. I would say right now, too, we also have our Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program open. Sometimes it's called FEMA's Hotel Program. And so if you've registered for FEMA assistance and you're eligible, you should have been contacted either by a text message or an email or a phone call with a voicemail to let you know that you're eligible. But if you haven't, or if your conditions changed, you can always call our phone number, 1-800-621-3362, or you can go to disasterassistance.gov and see if you need assistance, if you need a hotel room now, if your situation has changed. This is a program that's available to support you, and so use that resource as well. I think what I'll just say in closing is this is definitely a team effort, or as the governor said, all hands on deck. We're going to have our FEMA personnel here in the community supporting you right through all of your recovery needs for the weeks, the months, or even the years to come as we continue to help you rebuild. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kevin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Guthrie with the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Again, thank you, Governor, for your leadership. Thank you, Deanne, for your leadership and your partnership as we've worked through the last few weeks here on this particular disaster. I want to point out a couple of things the Governor said and just reiterate them. We could not be successful at the Florida Division of Emergency Management without the larger, what is referred to as the State Emergency Response Team. The State Emergency Response Team is a conglomeration of all state agencies that come together with emergency management personnel to respond to disasters like this. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the secretaries, the deputy secretaries, the chiefs of staff of these agencies that have helped us respond in one accord to this disaster, which has made this the fastest disaster response in the history of the state of Florida, and that is something we are certainly proud of. I'd be remiss if I didn't plug real quick for my friend and colleague Dane Eagle on the economic, the disadvantaged workers program that people have lost their jobs. Please go to CareerSource. We have CareerSource locations in every single county. CareerSource is actually a one-stop shop that will get you linked up with individuals that are actually looking for workers, temporary workers to work debris monitoring, debris removal, other types of disaster-related work that will also help put a paycheck in your pocket immediately. So please go to CareerSource at your local CareerSource county and get signed up for that. As we shift to short-term recovery efforts, the division continues coordination with our local partners to meet the needs of you, the survivors. To date, we have picked up a lot of debris across the area, to include wet debris. We continue to work on vessels, which the chairman for the FWC is, I'm sure, going to talk about. We continue to move at record speeds, not just in response, but now as we shift into recovery to provide resources for impacted residents. I'd like to thank our FEMA and all of our federal agencies for their partnership as we continue to work on these issues, to include, as you heard the governor announce today, our aquaculture issues. I'm confident that NOAA and the Secretary of Commerce will be just as great a partner as Deanne Criswell and the FEMA administration, as well as U.S. Army Corps and many other federal agencies, and we look forward to working with them. Under the governor's leadership, we are committed to helping survivors get back on their feet following this disaster. If there's anything that we can do at the Florida Division of Emergency Management, please make sure you visit floridadisaster.org and give us information, talk to us, let us know what we can do to help you out. As always, Governor, thank you for your leadership. I appreciate you.
Okay. Daniel?
Thank you, Governor, and thank you to Safe Harbor for having us here today. Hurricane Ian has shown us what matters most in our life: our community, our family, and our friends. The environmental consequences of this storm were absolutely unbelievable to this point, and we haven't even seen what those full impacts will be, and we will over the next coming months. Captains for Clean Water's mission is to restore and protect aquatic ecosystems for the use and enjoyment of all. And right now, these people here in our communities are thinking about more than just using and being on our waterways. They're thinking about rebuilding their homes and restoring their communities to what they used to be. As an organization, we're committed to ensuring that these communities heal and recover from this horrible storm that hit here. We grew up here, we've lived through these storms before. We know that recovery is not going to come overnight. It's going to be months and years until these businesses are back open fully and our guides are back on the water. And we know that our guides, our charter captains that are here, until these small businesses are open, the resorts are open, the grocery stores, the restaurants, especially out on the barrier islands, Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, Captiva, their business is significantly impacted. And they don't want to be unemployment. They want to be out there helping the community recover. I've seen countless fishing guides, captains, civilians that have lost their homes, had 3 to 4 plus feet of water of storm surge in their homes, that are out helping other people gut their homes and help them rebuild their homes. And I think that's the spirit of Southwest Florida that we're all so proud of. I'd like to thank Governor DeSantis for his full-bore, light-speed response to this disaster. We lost touch with the outside world, especially further south of here. Our cell towers went down, and we were out throughout the night on Wednesday. Chris was recovering people in his John boat. We had people on our team that had significant damages to their homes, and we're out there in the community, and it was nothing short of apocalyptic what we saw Wednesday night and Thursday morning. And to think that, when we finally got a little bit of cell service and start seeing these pictures of the causeway that would be collapsed, the governor had said, everybody was saying a year. The local governments were saying a year. Individuals, leaders here in the community were saying, 6 months to a year before that bridge is back open. To think we'd be here less than 3 weeks later, and there's already 350 power trucks out there on the islands, that's a great first step, and we never thought that could have happened. I would especially like to thank the governor for thinking of the boat captains. They have been there leading, helping people. All these guides behind us, their boats have been beat up and destroyed. There's so much debris in the water. They've been there for their clients and new faces through some of the hardest times they've had to experience in their life, when they're you see all these photo albums and all these irreplaceable things, possessions in people's homes that are just being tossed into dumpsters and into contractors' bags and shoved out at the street. I'd like to thank the governor for thinking of them, for filing this request to NOAA. I'd urge NOAA to act as quickly as they can and make sure that these guides are going to be okay. A lot of these resorts that are out on the barrier islands are completely gone. And that's where the vast majority of their business comes from. It's people that come down here and stay. As the governor said, our fishing industry is $10 billion annual economic impact, and a large portion of that is here in this impacted area in Southwest Florida. I'd like to thank the guides and the volunteers again for putting their lives on hold. I know Kyle Potts here from Towboat US they had significant damages to their home, and they've been out salvaging people's boats. All the guides here, everybody was impacted, but they're all working. Last, I'd like to thank all of the outdoor industry as a whole across the country. I know we have representation here from Costa Sunglasses. Yeti has sent all these coolers. We've been filling them up with ice. We've delivered over 100 already, and these ones will be going to the most impacted communities. We're filling them up with ice and waters and perishables, and we've got a bunch of fuel here. We can fill people's generators up. It's a small step, but we're doing the most we can. But the outdoor industry across the country has shown Southwest Florida more love than we ever could have imagined in the last 2.5 weeks. And we just want to make sure that everybody understands. I mean, we've been through this before with, Hurricane Charlie could have fit in the eye of this storm. This is a huge disaster, and it's going to be a lot longer road to recovery. And as the governor said many times, when the news cameras clear out of here, there's still going to be years worth of work that needs to be done. So I just want y'all to realize that there's little pockets of this community that didn't get hit quite as bad as others. As our lives get back to normal, don't forget about the folks here in our community that didn't get so lucky with this storm. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Governor. First of all, Governor, we want to thank you for your leadership. You've inspired us. He has. Not only has the governor inspired us, First Lady Casey DeSantis has inspired us. She's raised over $25 million. Governor, thank the First Lady for us. The FW Commission, we're praying for all you to recover. I was a victim of Hurricane Andrew 25 years ago. I can say that I know what you're going through. We're here to stay. We're here to help you. The governor's given the FWC full resources to attack this catastrophe. I got to tell you, I've spoke to Chris from Captains for Clean Water the day after the storm. He was concerned there was homes being broken into in Pine Island. We sent a whole bunch of FWC officers over there. We settled that all down. We're here to stay. This is we understand early estimates there's probably north of 5,000 boats that are damaged. We have a special crew in here. They're tagging boats as we talk right now. We're going to be cleaning these boats up. The insurance company's in here cleaning boats up right now. So we're going to get the waterway cleaned back up so you can get back out boating, back to a normal life. Today's the first day of stone crab season. So we have waived by executive order lobster traps and stone crab traps. Our commercial guys can get their traps back out on the water so they can start making a living. We're cognizant of the fact that the fisheries, they may not have a place to take it to sell it to. So we're going to be talking to the governor about that because they need an avenue to sell their product, and we're going to have to find out because it doesn't exist right now. But the resources out there, and we want to make sure they have access to it. I just want to let the boating community and the outdoor community understand that the Fish and Wildlife Agency's here. We're going to stay here. We're here to help you. We have officers from all over the state. They're in your backyard helping you today. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, and we're going to continue pulling whatever levers we can to be able to help people with relief and recovery efforts. And we're happy to say we were able to announce this week that by October 18th, every school district will be back up and running in at least some capacity. Obviously, Lee County had some schools that were destroyed, but to be able to have kids being back and having normalcy restored in areas that just went through an awful lot, that's going to help things progress forward because these are stressful times. There's a lot of things that happen, and if a family at least has the kids doing their thing and they can get back to normal, it makes it easier for everybody else. And it's the same thing we saw with the schools that we saw with the first responders. You had folks that work in our schools, teachers, administrators. They had damage to their homes. Some lost their homes, and yet they've been working around the clock to get the schools back in working order to be able to welcome students back again. So I'm thankful for everyone that's been working in that effort. I know that there's going to be more that we'll need to do from the Department of Education side to help, but we've done a lot and we'll continue to do more. And at the end of the day, everyone's really united and banded together to push forward on all these things. You have obstacles you face in life, you get knocked down in life. And that is to be expected in some capacity or another. The key is once you get knocked down, how do you respond? And are you going to jump, get back into the fray and press ahead even in the face of obstacles? And that's what I'm seeing, the spirit here in Southwest Florida. And I can tell you that's the spirit we're going to continue to have for the state of Florida. So let's keep moving forward. We'll be back again very soon, and we'll be doing more. Thanks, everybody.